Welcome to A Mason's Work, the podcast where we review Masonic symbols and illustrate how they can be used to solve problems in everyday life. With your host, Brian Mattox, a proud member of the Craftsman Online Media Network.
All right, so the first episode this week, we named the sort of anxiety, the symptoms we were feeling, the overall general tightness, the discomfort, the ambiguity of just this fear that's activated against a idea or a subject we haven't fully explored. And then yesterday we started the process of coming to name the cause of that physiological and emotional response. When we have the name for the thing we're afraid of, though, that isn't necessarily sufficient sometimes to dissolve the anxiety. So this is where stuff starts to get sticky and weird, right? So a lot of folks, when they're feeling this kind of anxious and they've got a name for it, they surrender their autonomy. And they say things like, I'm going to trust in a higher power, or I'm going to hope that things get better. And I want to say this, and hopefully this isn't offensive, that is essentially surrendering your authority, surrendering your agency and your capability, when in fact you actually do have a meaningful response here. Hope is the refuge of folks who cannot take action. We don't need to hope. We're Masons. We work on ourselves. We solve problems. That doesn't mean that we can take control of everything. That's not what this is about. This is about understanding that if you're trying to build a better version of yourself, sitting around and waiting for the answer, that whole no one's going to come to save you kind of concept deeply applies, and so much so that your body has raised the alarm. It's given you this anxiety as a gift to tell you, like, something's coming your way. Now we've got to do something, because the only way to release anxiety is through action. The problem is, against a large unnamed target, or even a target that's just too big to handle, right? I'm anxious that I'm not going to get the approval that I'm looking for out of this person, or I'm not going to, do well in the job interview, or whatever the conversation might be, right? We have an opportunity to take action. Action will help you resolve anxiety. So, what we need to do in order to meaningfully take action against this amorphous feeling, or this blob, is to move from that 50,000 foot view down. Move down to the ground floor. Move to the 5 foot view, or, if you're short, the 4 foot view. And you want to move down to that view because it's on the ground is the only place you can take action. When we start to look at the actions we can take and really start to meaningfully architect solutions to problems so we can retain our agency or gain agency, the important thing to look at that sort of ground floor is understanding what it is we're trying to do. So we've got a name for this anxiety and a cause for it, at least some level of an idea of a cause. Maybe it's that job interview, and we'll use that as our example. So, is there stuff you can do to manage your anxiety around a job interview? Probably. There's individual tasks you can take. There is, maybe you can do interview prep. Maybe you can study relaxation techniques. Maybe you can start to look at, opportunities to brush up your interviewing skills. Whatever the case may be, there is almost always an action you can take. And if you don't believe that, if you don't believe you can take action, then your only refuge is surrender to that anxiety, right? If there's nothing you can do, there's nothing you can do. But again, I like to believe that there's always something we can do, something that we can take that nervous energy, that activated fear that's not pointed at a directed thing, and move it down. What's great about understanding how this works is that this works for anxiety, but it also works for pretty much all of the challenges you're going to face in everyday life. You want to have these big, big goals, these big problems you want to solve. The answer is always very, very small actions in a repeated, meaningful way. As you learn this skill, this is the craftsman's art, right? This is looking at the giant block of stone and understanding that you can only chip away at it one hammer strike at a time, one blow at a time, one swing of the chisel or the hammer and the chisel. So as you go through this, you want to take these big sort of amorphous feelings, these blob-like feelings, these wispy cloud-like feelings, and try and find the discrete singular action you can take in the moment at a low level. Bonus points if it's something you can repeat on a regular basis. If it's something that gives you even more agency because you're doing it regularly, maybe it's I'm nervous about public speaking and the job interview feels like a public speaking gig. Maybe I can start doing more public speaking so that the next time that comes up, the threat is no longer activating my entire physiological response. I'm now just kind of used to it, right? Increasing tolerance over time will decrease that anxiety. And we'll talk a little bit more tomorrow about kind of where this all goes and what the sort of quest benefit you're going to get from this as we move forward.
The views represented in this podcast are those of the speaker alone and are not representative of any grand or subordinate lodge.
Hi, Brian here. I wanted to thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you have any suggestions or guidance for further episodes you'd like to see or hear, whatever the case may be, please don't hesitate to reach out to me at amasonswork.com, and we will try and incorporate your suggestions into a future recording. Thanks.
Freemasonry teaches us that the true work is within, a lifelong journey of reflection, discipline, and discovery. At A Mason's Work, we help Masons bring out their best selves through meaningful self-inquiry and symbolic practice. From personal reflection to lodge engagement, we offer tools that turn symbols into action. Visit us at amasonswork.com. The work is within. The time is now.